Hello friends and welcome, I'm VA Adam. In today's video I'll be showing you how to remove the radio on my 1972 Buick Riviera. This video was requested by Winwad Goro and I hope that you find it useful. I'm going to start by removing the black knobs from either side. Once these are off, I can remove the silver ring surrounds. Once these surrounds are off, the dash piece will just pull off and that will reveal some hex nuts that hold the radio in place. Once these are removed, the radio will push back and out. It is easiest to take this out through the ashtray space and is recommended in the workshop manual as well, so I'm going to remove that and I'll remove the ashtray surround and slide it out through the hole that that's going to reveal. So to start with, just pull the black knobs towards you and they pull straight off. You can see here that they're shaped, so they'll only actually go back on one way when you come to put them back on. I just pop everything up here on the dash to keep it safe, and you can keep it in the same order that it came off as well. The left ring surround comes off quite easily. Now the right one does require a little bit more force as it's held in with 3 electrical pins on the right hand side, and they can be quite stiff. Use a dash trim removal tool if you're finding it a little bit too difficult to remove with your fingers and your nails, as I'm doing here. Just don't apply too much pressure and make sure that you, as always, you take your time. Also, I would advise against using anything metal, such as a screwdriver, as you might damage the finish on the dash piece. So, once that's removed, the dash piece will pull towards you and really easily come off. The dash piece is held in with these little metal retaining clips here. You can see that some of mine have been lost, so that's probably why mine just came off so easily. Yours might be a little bit stiffer when it comes off. So, now we can see the hex nuts which are holding the radio in place. To remove these, you need a deep 5/8 socket. But before we do that, we just need to remove the ashtray in order to get easier access. So let's go down to the ashtray, and you can see here that there's an earth connection just here. So we're going to start by just pulling that off. Once the earth connection is removed, just slide the ashtray forwards towards you, push down on these 2 retaining clips either side, and there is also a connection on the bottom here for the cigarette lighter, so just pull that off once you've got the ashtray slid out towards you. Under the dash here, we can see where the radio is located, just here. You can also see that there's a bolt on the right hand side here that slots into this retaining slot, and that is actually what holds the radio in place and helps guide it in when you're putting it back in. I'm going to disconnect this pipe just here, which is just under the steering wheel, to make it a bit easier to access. And now with that out of the way, we can access the cables at the back of the radio a lot easier. There's a tab here on the right hand side of the connector, so just push that and pull the connector out. The other connector here has a tab, but it's on the opposite side, so again just push it and pull it out. The other wires here are actually soldered onto the connectors on the back of the radio. This isn't actually standard, it's been done by somebody at some point as an aftermarket job, so hopefully your radio won't have this. There is also the aerial connection, but that's on the far left as we're looking at the radio at the moment, but we can disconnect that later as the radio is coming out because it's much easier to access. Now let's use a 5/8 socket to remove the hex nuts. You don't need a wrench, they're just finger tight, so just pop the socket on, twist, and they should just come off nice and easily. As you can see here, I'm just going to lightly push the radio and you can see how it just drops back out of place as the bolt's coming off of that retainer clip. I'm now just going to remove the surround that holds the ashtray in, as the radio can't slide out with this in place. So to do this, we're just going to use a Phillips 2 screwdriver and remove these 4 screws to either side here. With the screws out, you can see how the surround just pulls out towards us. Disconnect the bulb holder here in order to get the grey wire out of the way. This disconnects by just applying some pressure to one side of these retaining pins, and then it will just pop out. You can see now how easy it is to access the radio. Pulling the radio out a little bit reveals the aerial connection that I mentioned earlier on the right hand side of the radio here, so let's just pull that out. When pulling the radio out, it can foul a little bit against the hose, but just give it a little wiggle and it should come free. You can also disconnect the hose from the other end and remove it completely if you want to give yourself a little bit more space. So now we've finally got the radio out and you can see the connectors on the back here. You can see the 2 cables that I mentioned earlier, which are aftermarket and are for some rear speakers, and they're actually soldered into the radio. If your car came with rear speakers from the factory, they won't actually be soldered in like this. They'll have a proper connector, which again will probably have a tab on that you'll just be able to pull off when you're under the dashboard. What I'm going to do now is just bring up a picture of the back of the radio, which shows you the connectors a little bit more detail. So, to go through these connectors, we have 4 grounds, which are located here. We have the left front and the right front positives, the right rear and the left rear positives, the 12-volt supply, and finally the positive for the lamp. So from here you can do whatever you need to do with the radio. So if you want to change a bulb, for example, that would require just taking the case off and the bulb is inside. Once you're done, the radio can just be fitted back in by just simply reversing these removal instructions. Be careful when you're putting the radio back in that you don't foul any cables, and when you're installing, don't forget about the locator bolt on the radio on the left, which goes into that retaining slot. So as always guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and until next time, this is V8 Adam signing off.